Welcome in everybody to another Cleveland sports podcast. My name's Andrew. I'm with Jordan, and we break a lot of ground in the podcast space. That's kind of our identity is groundbreakers, people that are do things that are unexpected. And one thing that's unexpected is if you record a weekly podcast, you want to go ahead and do that right before the most consequential sporting event of the week for the city you're covering. So the Cavs play Game 6 tonight. Most of what we talk about will be irrelevant within 4 hours of us ending this recording. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, I don't understand why Adam Silver doesn't return my text. It's they've stopped saying delivered now, and I'm not sure what's going on with that.
Yeah.
But he's not really accommodating our schedule,
No.
and I thought we had a relationship. I thought we were boys. I had him. He's met my family. I've met his family.
Yeah, he's the godfather of your son.
Yeah, he is. And not a lot of people know that, but he is. And again, these texts are going
unanswered,
and here we are about to talk on a podcast and then have everything we say be rendered moot, essentially. So,
but listen, the last time we got together and talked was prior to Game 3.
Yeah.
And the Cavs are undefeated.
We were not in a good place.
We buried them, Jordan. We buried them. I titled the episode Cavs pre-mortem, and we put a lot of dirt on that coffin, and seems like maybe it was premature.
Yeah, they've risen like the Undertaker, and
in that gift,
yeah, it is really it's really remarkable the swings that as fans we tend to, swing back and forth from play to play. I try not to be like a play to play person, but in the playoffs, I am. And in the playoffs, it's hard. In the playoffs, it's harder because you are literally, you're so locked in on every moment, every possession.
You are living and dying. The
Cavs were the worst basketball team I'd ever seen for 2 games. They have, unearthed themselves out of the rubble. They won a game on the road, Andrew, for the first time in the playoffs.
Yep.
Which is really remarkable. They did it. They were down 9 with a couple minutes left. I mean, they did things that was very un-Cavs-like, which actually gives me a fair amount of hope going into this game. Yeah, we probably don't need to talk a lot about, like, what can the Cavs do to win this game? Because then people will be listening to this. But I will say that there was I think in that game against the Pistons, we've talked a lot about this iteration of the Cavs and how, man, I just don't think they have it. Like, whatever it is, whether it's mental toughness, whether it's being able to bounce back when things do not go your way, type of like stuff that's not X's and O's. That was the first time in this whole iteration of this team going, this is like a 4-year run now, where it was like, oh man, they were the more physical team. They were like, we're down 9, we're coming right back at them. For the first time in a long time, it's like, well, that's an interesting development, because that's not really something we've seen from them literally for 4 playoff runs.
No, I mean that's kind of, I think that's the hinge around this whole comeback, is that the reason it felt impossible was that they hadn't shown the resilience that it would take to do what they've done. So it's kind of ipso facto, right? Like if they showed that resilience, they were going to be able to come back. I think we both have thought that they're the more talented team, right? The reasons that they struggled against the Raptors and went down 2-0 against the Pistons was not about talent per se. It was about intangible stuff. And, does that stay fixed? Who knows, right? But one of the things that I remember saying last week, and it's crazy that I remember saying any of it, is that if they were going to do this, they needed to win 4 straight, because they're not going to win a Game 7. And I still stand by that, right? Like, I think tonight is their chance.
They have to win tonight. They have to win tonight.
Right. So it is very funny to, again, I mean, like, I'm not trying to make too much of it, but doing this podcast in the shadow of a game that basically, like you said, is going to render everything we say about meaningless one way or the other is a very fun bit that we're doing. And I'm glad that we're doing it. But I want to go back to Game 5, because I told you via text a few days ago that I had a good story about my experience with Game 5. And so I think we talked on the pod last week a little bit about I was thinking about getting a new car.
Yeah, we did. We
Yeah,
touched
yeah,
on
yeah.
it.
Yeah. So that search intensified over last weekend, and
Mm.
Wednesday was the day that I traveled to Chicago to purchase an automobile, um, and I went electric, Jordan. I'm one
He's
of
an
the
electric
only
man.
I'm one of the only Americans in the year 2026 that decided to jump over, and boy, it's an interesting experience. But I tried to do a lot of research. I was mostly prepared for what it was going to be like. But one thing that I missed in my research was that, and in retrospect, it feels like obvious, but I it's something I didn't conceive of. This is going to sound, maybe to people that have electric cars, it's going to sound really dumb. Maybe to you it won't. There are different speeds of charging stations.
Sure. I
So
I would say that's not. I walk past charge, especially out here in
sure,
LA. There are
yeah,
charging stations everywhere.
yeah,
Uh, but I probably not something I was aware of that there is alternating speeds of the stations.
yeah,
So I'm in
yeah.
this boat with you.
Okay, great. That makes me feel better. So there's sort of two pieces to this. One, there's that, and two, sometimes when you buy a used electric car, especially from I would say maybe not the most reputable dealership, um, the cord that you plug it in with isn't included. So
Sure.
yeah. So I
So
mean,
you're cordless, is what you're saying.
yeah, it's a wireless car.
Oh, yeah, it's a
No. It's yeah. So I
wireless.
mean, you're supposed to, if nothing else, you're supposed to take it home and plug it in, and you literally can just plug your car into the wall, which is crazy,
Right.
but it's true. Um, I don't have that. I was unable to find, because of where we are in this day and age. I was unable to find one to purchase in the real world.
Okay.
They're online, they're everywhere online, but you're talking a few days until you get your hands on one. So two things that happened on Wednesday as I'm driving home, which is, it's like a distance from Chicago back to where I live. So I'm depleting the battery while I'm doing this. No way to charge it at home. And so then I'm like, well, I'll just go to a public charging station, zip zap, and there you go. I plugged it in at this public charging station after going for dinner in a small town, and it was like, my car was like, all right, I'm charging. I'll be done charging at 5 a.m.
Oh,
It's not what you
can
want to
I?
see, Jordan.
Yeah, can I? Let me quickly, if I
Yeah,
could,
please.
sum up what I am taking from this experience. You
Yeah,
purchased an electric car.
so far you're
This
right.
car eventually it needs to be recharged.
Yeah, it's not a single use. I
Sure,
mean,
sure, sure.
I guess it could
It's
be.
not it's not a well, yeah, it's not a burner phone that you're throwing away, but
I'm not going to break it in half. No.
no, this dealership, which I am, what I'm hearing is you were in an alleyway. There was a
Yeah,
man.
pretty much. Yeah,
There was an
yeah.
exchange of perhaps Bitcoin, and a car was
Suburban
given to you.
Chicago. You know how it is.
Mhm.
Yeah,
They said we have no cords for you here.
yeah.
You said that's fine. I'll be on my way. You drove. You had a nice dinner.
Hmm.
I'm
Yeah,
assuming
it was really good dinner. Really
I'm
good dinner. One of
assuming
my
you bought a
favorite places.
steak.
Yeah,
Yeah, a
yeah.
steak.
I sent you a picture of the empty beer mug.
You did.
Actually. Yeah.
You did.
Yeah.
And then you said, I need to charge this, or else
Hmm.
I can't get
I
home, and
can't go home. Yes,
I'll live in
that's
the streets."
that's right.
And you plug it in a what I'm imagining is a town of 10 with one stoplight,
There
and
might be two stoplights.
and this charger looked you dead in the eye and
Yeah,
said,
yeah.
"See you at 5 a.m." Does
You
that
got
sound
you
correct?
have 9 hours is what it said to me. Yeah, yeah, yeah. That
Yeah.
is the summary. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, yeah,
Great.
yeah. And so, I mean, the thing is that I didn't need a full charge to get home from where I was.
Sure.
I needed a few. I mean, with this speed of charger, I need like 2 hours of charging. So, but that means that now my evening, which was supposed to be getting this car, blah blah blah, going home, watching the Cavs, my evening now is checking for score updates on my phone, which is also dying.
Your electronic situation in
Yeah,
general
no,
this
this was.
evening,
I mean,
not
well,
good.
it was a long day because I had to go. I went all the way down to. It's a whole thing. Like
Yeah, of course.
logistics
There's a
were
whole thing.
fraught. So I'm unable to even I can't watch it on my phone because my phone is just not even enough. So I listened to the end of the game on internet radio on my car while I'm laying in the back seat, actually,
Yes.
while the car charges, so I can get home. So that's how I experienced the end of the Cavs game. And
and you know what?
I will never forget it because it was very funny to be. And should I have maybe walked to a bar? Probably. Yeah. Would that have been a
Sure.
better use of my time? Yeah. But I was like not 100% sure that I wanted to it's also like there's an adjustment of like leaving your car charging is not something like that. How that
Yeah,
works
it doesn't
mentally.
feel comfortable the first time, I
Right.
imagine.
Yeah. It's
Yeah.
like leaving a kid unattended. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
I mean, obviously it's locked. Nothing can
You
happen,
know
but
when you
the
plug your kid in to recharge them? It's similar to that.
yeah, it's a metaphor that doesn't hold up to a lot of scrutiny.
No.
Um, anyway, that was my experience, and so I literally I saw none of it. I saw none of it. Obviously, watched the highlights as soon as I got home, but it was a very long day for me. But capped off by a shocking, I would say shocking comeback, and then win in overtime. And often you see when a team rallies from that far down in regulation to force that overtime, then they really struggle to get over the hump. So double kudos to the Cavs for not only winning in overtime but kind of putting it away in the last 2 minutes. Obviously, Max Strus had that great steal that kind of.
Shout out to Max Strus,
I
man.
mean,
Just
he's no Dean Wade, obviously, but
he's no Dean Wade, but he is he's a little demon out there on the
yeah, he
court.
is.
Like
He is effort.
the effort is through the roof. He's
Mhm.
shooting well. I mean, he
Yeah,
shot very well in that game, which always helps. There are some games when he's like 0 for 7 from 3 and you're like, "Ah, man, it's tough to have you out there when you're not making shots." But when he is making like a couple of threes, everything else he does.
yeah. It
I
all
mean, he
starts
is
to click.
a nonstop motor. He didn't play for 75% of the season, so he's at fresher than
Yeah.
probably anybody on that roster, and you can see it when he's stealing the ball from Cade Cunningham and off an inbounds pass because
Mhm.
nobody's really paying attention. Like, huge shout out to Max Strus.
Jordan, if I could just
Um,
jump in for a second, you know who doesn't
yeah, of
have a
course.
nonstop motor?
Yeah, who is that?
Me.
folks. And folks, in the
Yeah.
biz, we call that an alley oop.
My
Okay.
car. My car
Yeah.
doesn't have a nonstop.
Yeah, that's
Stops
bringing
a
it
lot.
full circle.
Stops a lot, folks.
Tough
But I
thoughts.
want to hear from you what your
Yeah.
experience of watching Game 5 was. Were you at home? Did you go out?
I was at home.
Yeah.
There's the start times out here are so weird. Like it's
Sure.
4 and 5
Sure.
o'clock. So
Yeah.
I'm like finishing up work, or I now go into an office. So
Right.
I'm driving back, and I'm watching the
You're
game.
like driving back during the beginning of the game.
Yes, which
Oh,
I
that
hate.
doesn't feel good.
I
Yeah,
hate.
that's the worst.
I have angst as I'm driving because I
Sure.
just like want to get back.
Are you listening to it or you're just kind of
No, I am. Fortunately, the 5 p.m. start times have helped. I can leave
okay?
the office a little bit before, so I can get back.
Good.
Uh, It's funny. My girlfriend, who is not a sports watcher, but when she got home, for game 5, I was like on the couch, but like in a fetal position, because I think it was end of the fourth. It was end of the fourth quarter,
Oh
and I'm
gosh.
just
Yeah.
sort of sitting
Yeah.
there, just
Yeah.
like, oh my. But they had started that comeback,
Yeah.
and I just sort of sat like that for the duration of the game. I think one of the cooler, like we've talked about how frustrating a lot of this playoff run has
Yeah.
been, and how a lot of times it has not really been fun to watch. It's been stressful, and they've played some pretty bad basketball at times. So
Yeah.
you're just sort of like constantly frustrated. This was a game where, and I think the moment that stood out to me, he played incredible overall, but Evan Mobley, in the midst of this, when they got down 9 and they made this comeback, just stepped into a 3 as confidently as I've ever seen him step
Mhm.
into one. Like there was no hesitation. Got it at the top of the 3-point line, was open, took the shot. I think they were down either 5 or 6 at that time. And I mean, it was an enormous shot. And he just did it without hesitation, and the confidence that
Yeah.
kind of you watched him take that shot was such like a growth moment. Now he had 8 assists in this game. He's been a defensive menace the entire series, but like this game, and I think why the Cavs as a whole can be so like, oh my God, they have so much talent, is like this version of Evan Mobley
Yeah.
turns the Cavs into a different beast.
Oh,
You don't
yeah.
get it. You don't get it all the time. You rarely get it like even 2 games in a row. But that was the perfect Evan Mobley game. And I think this series in general, while one big man on the other side of the floor is getting benched for an entire fourth quarter and overtime. Like
Right.
Jalen Duren is having a maybe life-altering series in terms of like he
Yeah.
was all set to get a max contract from the Pistons after this regular season, and now they might be like, we're gonna maybe revisit that in the offseason. I mean, he's getting played off the court.
Yeah.
While Evan Mobley is sort of thriving, and Jared Allen too, to an extent. But I this is the version of like Evan Mobley that you're just like, my God, if they had this every game,
Yeah.
if they had 90% of this every game, they're a really hard team to beat. And so that to me was really, really fun. I think so many of us are just like rooting for Evan Mobley to sort of turn into this player that we think he can be. And when he does, and when he shows it, it's like, man, it's an adrenaline rush. So that to me was probably the most fun moment, was that 3. Because then you were like, okay, now they're back in it. Now they can really make a run at this thing. And yeah, that moment really stood out to me.
I mean, it's funny, like in general, when you follow sports, there are these sort of opinions about the games and the teams that become sort of calcified and maybe exist long beyond their usefulness as a way of like thinking about the team. I mean, obviously the number one in Cleveland sports is the Browns' inability to get out of their own way, right? But with the Cavs specifically, it's and the funny thing about the Browns is they keep proving that right, even as you keep thinking they've outgrown it. With the Cavs, the two things that fans of the Cavs have said for the past 4 years are they're not tough, they're soft, they get pushed around in playoff series, and then the other one was, when is Evan Mobley going to kind of take the leap and kind of live up to the promise when he has these moments? You see these flashes of like, he has the athleticism and frame to be one of the most dominant players in the league, and he doesn't play like that 80-90% of the time. So that's been like the easy level sports radio commentary about this team for years.
Yes.
And it's crazy that in one playoff series, maybe both of those things that, like, again, every idiot who even touches the Cavs a little bit has heard those ideas. And it's like, those are actually the most useful ways to analyze the team in like a make or break playoff series. It's wild how sometimes that stuff is just like, yeah, people say it a lot because it's true, man. Like, the stuff that gets repeated and repeated over again. And I think in the case of the toughness thing, it really was more about like the resilience necessary to be successful in the playoffs, which is, I don't think that it's a team of, I think soft is like that to me is not a helpful sports narrative, right? But
no, it's not. I think there's nuance to, I disagree when people are like, oh, they're soft, like
right.
there's
I think that's a caricature of the position. The position is they get punched in the mouth and they don't know what to do. They don't have the resources to kind of gather themselves after that. It's about, I think resilience is the helpful word, not soft.
Resilience is better. It's not being able to grab the defensive rebound when you absolutely need it. That is not something that's soft. That's just something that's like, man, they are just not putting themselves in a position or playing with the proper sort of force to do that. And it's interesting because this narrative, should they win this series, I mean, they're right back with the Knicks where this all started, which really is sort of a full circle moment for this team. We've talked again before about how the lights were too bright quote from Jared Allen has
one of the craziest sports quotes of the decade.
And sort of has just haunted this team,
of course,
since he said it.
Yeah.
Despite him trying to like make a joke about it, like later on in the years, when he was,
dude, if I was like in a serious relationship and I said to my partner, like, I'm not really much of a relationship guy, like they would bring it up all the time.
They would,
and understandably, because what the hell? That's not how you're supposed to, like, that's not what you say.
No. So it's like they get out of this series and another sort of, I guess, I don't know what the word I'm looking here for is, but like another judgment, I guess, of the Cavs awaits in terms of like, okay,
no, it's not like it goes away after they beat the Pistons. Yeah,
no, you're going back into the place that sort of started this whole thing of, because that was the first, they had a good regular season.
Yeah,
they got into that series, and you were like, oh my, what team is this? Am I watching? Which has been a common theme in playoff runs since then. So. As far as storylines go, Andrew, you can't get much better than team sort of fights off some ghosts of the past only to face the original ghost.
And that's
Like
right, of course, and that's how it works too, right? I mean, there's also the constant Cleveland versus New York sports thing, which is one
yep,
of my favorite. It doesn't really exist in football for whatever reason, but in baseball and basketball, anytime a Cleveland franchise has to play, whether it's the Knicks or the Yankees, it's the same feeling, every time. And so, we will all kind of encounter a lot of our demons, around those sorts of
yeah,
playoff series. But you're right. The only way to actually put this stuff to bed is to, I mean, you know, would it be sufficient to make the finals? Probably. Like, I mean,
yeah.
at the point that they won a conference championship, and then we've talked before about how these teams in the West seem to be operating at kind of a different level. Would you begrudge them for losing in 5 games to the Thunder? I don't know that I would. So yeah, I mean, I think that the series against the Knicks maybe could be that, but obviously, I mean, in many of the same ways that any Cleveland team, like getting to the getting to the pinnacle and winning the trophy is all that matters, because the city has such a psychological like wound around never winning anything. So you kind of can't shut people up about this stuff unless you do the one thing. That's kind of how it works.
That's how it works. And I mean, there's some big things on the line. Like obviously, everybody knows Donovan has never made it to this upcoming round. He's never made a conference finals. That's a for as long as he's played now. That's a thing that I'm sure has weighed very heavily on his shoulders.
Yeah.
James Harden has gotten very close to a finals appearance multiple times outside of that initial run with OKC when he was essentially a bench player. But during his time as the lead dog in Houston, they very famously missed like 17 threes in a row against the Golden State Warriors in a game
Mm-hmm.
7. They would have played the Cavs
Mm-hmm.
in the finals, but like that Houston team was built to like beat that Warriors team.
Yeah.
They got up in a game 7 at home and then missed so many threes in a row. It was almost unbelievable and ended up losing. So I think obviously Harden has his own playoff demons, and he's, has not been to the finals as a sort of 1A, 1B player.
Yeah.
So there's a lot on the line there. But I will say that yes, like if they get to the Eastern Conference Finals, I'm going to be, mad if they don't win that series just because as a fan. But I will say that like it is finally the first step in the direction of
Yeah.
okay, this roster has done something it hasn't done previously, which is not have a incredibly disappointing loss in the second round of the playoffs, which is basically outside of that Knicks series, the first year where they lost in the first round, but then back to back second round losses. One to the Celtics, which was basically a walkover, and then a very frustrating what's going on loss to the Pacers last season. This would be nice to, no matter how good you think Detroit is, they were the number 1 seed. I think I heard listening to a pod, they had the 5th best defense. I mean, they've basically played 2 of the best defenses in the NBA in round 1 and round 2. So like it is an accomplishment to get hopefully where they can go to the Eastern Conference Finals, and then it's like, all right, Cavs Knicks, let's go, let's see what happens. But
yeah, it'll be a blast.
It'll be super fun, and hopefully, as you're listening to this, the Cavs are up 30 and they're on their way.
Jordan's not in the fetal position on his couch.
I'll be in it, even if they're up 30. I'll be in the fetal position.
Oh, okay, great.
Yeah.
It does raise an interesting question too of like, suppose they win against the Pistons, play the Knicks, lose in 6 or 7 games, but what we've seen from Evan Mobley continues, and then you go into 2027 thinking he might be, the sort of second option on your team behind Mitchell. That even if they didn't go all the way this year would give you probably more long-term optimism for where the franchise is headed. Because if you look at like how they unlock that next tier of being a sort of perennial, not just contender, but like in that top tier, it's exactly what's just happened with the Spurs. And if that happens with Mobley, then that becomes possible for you, regardless of how good Donovan Mitchell is. And obviously we know he's incredible. The type of athlete that Evan Mobley is, it's apples and oranges.
Yeah, it is. I mean, it'll be fascinating to see like things that I was ready to just be fully out on this roster after the first 2 games, especially especially with Harden, where you have some options. Like he has a player option, I believe. So like you can do okay, well, let's pick it up for one more year and
Right.
see how it goes. But then that's like, well, if this isn't going well, do we just trade him at the trade deadline? You can do well, why don't we do like a 1+1? So like you play for one more year, we see how it's going. You can pick it up for a second year. I mean, I think there's some interesting conversations around like what makes sense to do with Harden, but he has very much redeemed himself
Yeah.
in these past 3 games. And then, of course, and this is something I'm sure we'll talk about during the offseason, but like there is the LeBron James lingering.
Of course.
What's he gonna do? Would it make if he's out here accepting like the vet minimum? Do you just say let's get weird? Let's like go Harden, LeBron, Mitchell, Mobley, Allen, and just run it and see for 1 year what happens. So like
Yeah.
there's going to be a lot of conversations, but I think to your point, and I think this has been true for a long time, is that if Evan Mobley can ever be the best player on the Cavs, it changes everything.
Right.
And
Exactly.
um, I don't know how much closer he is to that right now. I think we obviously saw a really, really great sort of complementary to James Harden game in Game 5. But he'll have another offseason. It'll be year 5, and it's like it's got to be soon. But if he gives you the sense that like he's about to take this mammoth step, which again I don't know.
Yeah.
But that definitely changes how the front office thinks about things. It's going to be the way this series has shifted. Andrew has really, I think, changed how I think a lot of us were thinking about it, but also like how the Cavs front office is.
I think that's probably true. I mean, I tend to lean towards they weren't going to make as many wholesale changes as fans thought they probably needed to, even when things looked as bad as they were. So I think there's probably more a sense of vindication, I would guess, because that tends to be how these places operate. You know what I mean? But I mean, you brought up last week like what Dan Gilbert wants to do. That's the other question here, right? I mean, Altman's got his approach, and I think again, he probably was not going to do what fans wanted him to do. Whether or not he was going to get booted out the door, that was kind of became the question. So, yeah, I mean, again, the game's in just a few hours here, and obviously changes a lot of things. And if they manage to lose a home game to Detroit that sets up a Game 7 in Detroit, we might be back having this exact same conversation, right? So, I mean, it has moved the needle, but has it moved the needle enough that sort of collapse over 2 games from the position they put themselves in would be forgivable? I don't know that it has, right? So, interesting times ahead for the Cavs. With the other Cleveland sports teams, we got I would say a real classic weird baseball trade from the Guardians. Just the type where the Guardians are so good at this, Jordan, where you see the notification and you kind of read the news about it and you're just like, huh.
Mm-hmm.
And you don't really, baseball has like a totally different frame of reference. So like giving up a borderline first round pick for a like defense first catcher, the like football equivalent of that is like, it would be total malpractice. But then, you see what this guy does defensively and how it, influences his like wins above replacement. And it, obviously how seriously the Guardians take defensive catchers and then needing to kind of get Bo Naylor back to AAA to work on some things before he can maybe contribute down the stretch at some point, perhaps at a different position. I mean, who the hell knows? It was just one that it took me a day or two to kind of get to grips with. And, then they go out and sweep the Angels. And, it's like, okay, I mean, I'm not saying putting that all on the trade, but it does feel, especially because of how early in the season it was, that the Guardians saw, the front office and probably the coaching staff saw a real need that was going unfilled that could potentially really change the trajectory of their season. And I know, again, I'm not trying to put all of what happened this week on that move, but you do have to say that the early returns are strong.
Yeah, it's a really, really interesting trade because, like on the surface, it's the Guardians acquiring another catcher that can't hit. And it is sort of the one position
They
where
love it. They don't care.
They love it.
They
don't care.
They don't care. When I say they don't care, I don't mean like they think they care, but they don't. No, they actually, if you ask them, would be like, yeah, we don't care.
No, their internal like analytics are telling them that a catcher that can prevent runs, can work with a pitching staff, is much more valuable than a catcher who is maybe an average offensive player, but is going to be really poor defensively. Bo
Right.
Naylor was having a bad season on both ends,
Right.
defensively and offensively. He clearly could not be, a part of that lineup anymore. Um, Austin Hedges, I think, is having a bit of a you would say fluky offensive season,
Sure. Yeah.
but he's a good defensive catcher. They have David Fry, who I don't know how often you're going to have him catch. They probably carry more catchers than any team in
Yeah.
Major League Baseball, but I think from that standpoint, you're like, okay, well, it's also been reported that this is a guy that they've been in love with for years. They've tried to trade for him previously, Patrick Bailey from the
Yeah.
Giants.
Oh yeah, good to say his name. That's a good idea.
Yeah. PB. It's very funny that the first game he played for them, he came up once with the bases loaded. He also came up another time with runners on base, and I think he popped up and struck out. So you're kind of like, listen, the game's going to find you one way or the other.
Of course.
And it's when those things happen that I'm like, did you need to give up actual assets just to get a guy who is once again going to struggle at the plate, especially when you have a pretty highly touted prospect down in AAA and Cooper Engel, who they clearly don't believe is ready defensively to come up and
Right.
play every day for them. But you still have he's got a very good bat, and sometimes I wish the organization, they've done it in some ways, but I do wish that they would value defense a little less and value offense a little more. But that's just not, especially at the catcher position, they just don't, like you said,
Yeah.
they don't care. And that's not how they look at it. So
I kind of have the opposite opinion, actually, because it's like I just feel like they're leaning into their strength. I mean, the strength of the team is pitching, and their rotation properly maximized can really set them up for success, and they're not gonna hit. Like I had this guy. I was on the
you're
phone.
simply not going to
I mean, I was on the phone with my dad this week, and he's doing the same thing that we've done on three of these podcasts already. It's like, well, I mean, if Manzardo can get going, and then if Ramirez gets out of a slow, the length of that litany of if this guy and this guy and this guy, everybody starts getting it going. Well, it's just not going to happen. It's just not going to happen. I mean, I don't know if this is intentional, but they collect streak hitters, and it's like one of these guys is going to be hot and kind of keep things ticking over while everybody else is going to be taking strike three right down the middle. It's never going to be like a cohesive, above average offensive unit. It's just not going to happen, man. And I know that that's a negative thing to say, and that DeLauder and Bazana, and we talked last time about the lineup does have more depth, but it's still full of a lot of guys that are streaky, and I don't feel like they're a team that I think a lot of times they don't have the best approach. And I think we talked about Naylor struggling defensively. There was some stuff offensively with him, just his swing really deteriorated, and I so the Guardians are absolutely the great at one thing, terrible at the other thing. I don't think their hitting coaching is as good as it should be, and I think their pitching coaching is better than you could ever hope it would be. So what the hell, man? You might as well get the guy behind the plate that's going to give the pitchers the best chance to be successful, because they're going to live and die by the starting rotation this year being above average.
Yeah, I think that's a fair point. And I think if there is a catcher to acquire with actual assets, the best defensive catcher by most metrics in the game, who is still early 20s, and he's a switch hitter. So there are at least some, you can play him, you can keep him in the lineup against whoever is on the mound because he switch hits. He's young. San Francisco is notoriously a horrible park for hitting. It is. Every time I see that place on television, I'm like, how does anyone ever hit a home run in this ballpark? It's insane how they built this place. So, I think there's some optimism there that it was a bad situation in San Francisco. The front office clearly was like, we don't like you, Patrick Bailey. We'd like to see you somewhere else. But I do think, I don't think a offensive catcher is going to change. If they had brought up somebody who's like, man, he's hitting 300, he's not going to change the entire lineup. And I do appreciate that. I think they have sort of leaned into more offensive leaning players in the lineup, and it is heartening to see someone like Angel Martinez start to really look like a legitimate hitter. But then, yeah, you're like, well, is Quan completely cooked? Maybe.
Yeah.
Is Kyle Manzardo ever going to hit? Well, I guess I don't know. He was promising for a little while, and now it's like, my God, dude. So,
Yeah. You throw
yeah.
Reese Hoskins in there and what's going on
Oh
with him.
my
I
God.
mean, it's just,
And
there's
Jose's
a,
having one of the worst
right.
stretches of his career. So it's like,
It's a laundry list. Yeah.
it's a laundry list of like ups and downs. And
yeah.
so, yeah, your
That,
point is well taken.
I mean, it's just it's how they're going to be, and I've just kind of resigned myself to it. But the flip side of that is that I think they can be, I think like you think about the struggles that Bybee and then to a certain extent Gavin Williams at times have had so far this year.
Yeah,
Like unlock if the catcher unlocks those guys, like I mean, truly, it's worth it. It has to be worth it.
for sure. And Bybee has settled down a bit. Slade Ciccone has settled down a
Yeah.
little bit.
Oh, he's really settled down. Yeah. Well, that's what I mean. The back of the rotation's looking great.
Yeah, and Parker Messick might like win the Cy Young. I don't know what's going on. So they no, I think yeah, they very much value a catcher who is going to frame pitches well, who is going to call a game well, and is going to help some of these pitchers really like unlock something. And that in itself is worth it. It's just I did have to laugh that like his first game, it was like bases loaded. Here's Patrick Bailey and strike 3.
Jordan, there's
like,
no question that they're going to be like against the Blue Jays or something, and he's going to come up with two guys, in a home game, two guys on, one out, and he's going to like, whatever, hit himself with the bat.
It was written in the stars.
Yeah, no, it's going to happen. Of course, it's going to happen. I mean, sports news in the Cleveland area. I mean, the Browns schedule came out. I don't care at all. It is what it is. We knew who they were going to play. I mean, the Titans continue to be the only team that I think has like an interesting approach to schedule release videos. Everybody else is
so good,
trying to steal what they do, as far as I can tell. I saw that the Cardinals got in trouble for using AI.
Oh my goodness!
Honestly,
this is not hyperbole. It's one of the worst videos I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to watch it.
I want you to because
really? You think so?
Yeah, I don't know. Titans and Chargers kind of set the bar.
Yeah, of course.
I'm sorry, the Browns are just my goodness, man.
No.
Oh, it's bad. Like I'd rather them just not do anything at all. And I'm also excited to see that we've got Deion Sanders. I don't know if you saw this.
Oh God, yes, God. It's
Deion Sanders says he just wants to have a chat. He just wants to have a chat with Todd Monken, not as a father, but Andrew as a coach. As a coach to coach. He just wants to talk.
As a coach. Listen, he has experienced the highs of the profession. Anytime you can guide a middling Big 12 school to a losing record, God, you absolutely deserve to have the ear of an NFL coach. No question about it. So yeah,
would love to hear Todd Monken's uncensored reaction to that headline. I would pay a lot of money. I mean, listen, there's a respect level for Deion.
I bet he will talk to him. I bet he will. Like Todd strikes me as the kind of guy who like will kind of go out of his way to do that sort of stuff in a way that I don't like. Now, by contrast, I don't think Stefanski ever would have.
No, and I guess there is a level because of who Deion Sanders is. There's a level of respect, but I continue whenever I see stuff like this. I'm like, you guys brought this baggage on yourself. You guys brought all of this baggage on yourself. It's never going to stop. It's never going to stop.
And I have no problem with Deion Sanders reaching out to Todd Monken. Like he has the clout to do that. Why is it in the media? That's the part. And to your point about bringing it on yourself, that's always the part of jumping with both feet into this whole thing that you knew you had signed up for, is that not only will it happen and all these weird things will happen, but they're going to be messy. They're going to be loud, and that's the part that I really, this goes all the way back to Odell Beckham's father, the 21 season. And I mean, there's just now a level of I really think mess is the right word with certain players that, if you are an unsuccessful franchise, you need to have a plan to handle it. And the Browns, specialize in not having a plan for that sort of thing. So, yeah, I mean, it's a dumb headline. It's a dumb idea. The fact that it got reported is dumb. All of it is dumb. And, like it has no bearing and won't have any bearing on what happens with the Browns season.
No, and not only that, it's like it's one thing with Odell, and at that point where like he was still considered a top
Yeah,
10
you're right.
wide receiver.
You're right.
You take the baggage of certain players when they
Right.
although that didn't work
Totally
out at
fine.
all for the Browns, but
Totally
like
fine.
it was OBJ at that time.
Yeah.
Now you're doing it with somebody like your backup quarterback, and it's like, guys, I don't really know what you thought was going to happen here, but these stories, yeah, that to your point, these stories are going to get leaked, and they are going to be in the media because your son is Shador is streaming 24/7. Like, you know, like this is what he is part of that culture where everything he does is online. So everything that is going to happen in storylines around him are just going to continue to do this. It also, speaking of perhaps former Browns quarterbacks that love to be online, I don't know if you've read any of Johnny Manziel's tweets about Drake's album. This is a real pivot, Andrew. I'm sorry to do here, but
I haven't, Jordan. But
I don't know
go
if you
ahead and
have. Can I read one to you?
Yeah, spin me a yarn here, man.
Well, Johnny Manziel 17 hours ago talking about a song. So Drake put out, let me preface this by saying, Drake's had this whole rollout plan for this album. His first album since he was put 6 feet under by Kendrick Lamar, to put it lightly, called Iceman. He was doing like Ice Cube installations in the middle of Toronto. The marketing has just been like, my God, it's a lot. Then, so it comes out today. It's out.
Great.
Last night, like an hour before midnight, when these albums get released, he's like, hey, I'm putting out 3 albums. Sure, man. Everybody was asking for 3 albums at once.
That's awesome.
Cool. Great.
Yeah.
So anyway, so that's happening. Very polarizing. But, you know, Johnny Manziel has been a hanger-on of Drake's for a long time. And so he's tweeting about the album. Here's one tweet. These are real words that Johnny Manziel is typing. No effing way he put that shit on the album, some song. Here's a line. Here's a sentence I've never heard before, Andrew. What a ripper. Hold on. Let me gather myself.
Yeah. Lock in.
What a ripper for the gang. That is Johnny Manziel. Okay, that's one. Let me just read. And I want to read you one more.
Man.
Okay, here's the second one I want to read you. Not 1, not 2, 3 albums on your head top. Nothing bigger than the effing owl. Thank you, my brother, for letting me be a part of this masterpiece. As if Johnny Manziel is featured somewhere on the album. I had to double check that those were real and from his account.
Of course.
And they are.
That's fantastic. Yeah.
Anyway, just wanted to read those to you.
Oh, no, that's great. I mean,
you can have those.
Like I
what
said,
a ripper for the gang, Andrew. I'm going to start saying that. I'm going to start saying that. Dude, what a ripper for the gang. Oh, dude, can you believe that song? What a ripper for the gang.
Especially when you say it so, like, when you say it so, like, you really enunciate all the, you're really enunciating clearly. It's great.
Johnny Manziel is I want to remind everybody, this is a grown man.
Oh,
this is a full adult male.
Yeah.
Saying things like, what a ripper for the gang.
What a ripper for the gang. Yeah, he's having a good time.
Doing well.
I mean, he's never stopped having a good time from what I can tell.
No, he never will.
So, yeah.
He never will.
You know, am I a little jealous? Sure. Yeah.
You could tweet something similar if you wanted.
Yeah, but it wouldn't feel the same, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, you need your own phrase.
It wouldn't feel like I meant it. You know, like he actually means that nonsense.
Oh, thank you, my brother, for allowing me to be a part of this masterpiece.
Yeah,
it's an incredible tweet.
Yeah, no, that's just
you weren't there.
That's his actual feeling. Yeah,
you weren't there. So,
well, like I said,
I don't know where to go from there, but
no, I mean, you know, like I said before, the cliche about the Browns is 100% true. They stay the Browns because they don't know how to keep themselves from getting embroiled in these messy situations, and it does, you know, I mean, look, is it the most exhausting form of analysis? Yes, but it does all begin and end with the owner, and I would say he's still the worst owner in pro sports. You know, we could have a conversation about that sometime, but he's definitely up there.
He's up there now. He has to figure out what to do with Giannis as part of the Bucks ownership group. So good luck to them.
It's the same problem. The Bucks have the same problem. Yeah. All right. Well, that's another Cleveland sports podcast for the week. And go Cavs, win Game 6. And Jordan, just on a personal note here, while we're wrapping up, I do want to thank you for allowing me to be a part of this masterpiece of a podcast.
And Andrew, I want to say back to you once again, what a ripper for the gang.
This was a ripper for the whole gang. Thanks, everybody, for listening. We'll be back again next week. Go Cavs. Until then.